Hello summoners and welcome back to another ProGuides upcoming changes video. My name is Christoph and today I'll be going over all the upcoming changes that are planned for patch 9.10. Everything that's mentioned here can be found in the PBE right now, but please do keep in mind that nothing is set in stone and changes can be made before 9.10 hits the live server. There are a ton of new features that I'm so excited to share, so let's get right into it. First up, we have a new champion that will be joining us on the Rift, Yumi, the magical cat. Leaving a life of cuddling and snacks, Yumi and her best friend Book go on a quest to find their master. She'll be available sometime during the start of patch 9.10, and I can't wait to play her. Yumi is an enchanter support who can use a ton of peeling abilities while also being mobile and extremely cute at the same time. Let's take a quick look at her abilities. Her passive is Bop and Block. Whenever Yumi attacks an enemy champion, she gains a damage shield and restores a bit of her mana. This ability will also shield her ally if she's attached to them. Prowling Projectiles is her Q. This ability is pretty similar to Zoe's Paddle Stars, except you can continuously maneuver it with your cursor. It does a ton of damage and also slows your opponent for a short duration. Her W is You and Me. Yumi dashes and attaches to an ally, gaining a small percentage of each other's AP and AD and converting it into adaptive force. While attached, Yumi is untargetable and follows her partner's movements. Zoomies is her E ability, which heals herself based off missing HP and also gives her a small burst of movement speed. If Yumi is attached while she uses this ability, then it'll target her ally instead. Lastly, Yumi's ultimate is Last Chapter. Think of Last Chapter like a barrage of Sona ults. Yumi looks like she'll be a ton of fun and will definitely be a good pick for the upcoming meta. Having a champion that is this unique feels like a breath of fresh air, and I can't wait until she hits the live server. We'll be uploading a Yumi guide this week with everything you need to know about how to play her, so make sure to smash that sub button to get notified when that comes out. Next up, we have the highly anticipated Battle Academia skin line coming to the Rift next patch. Lux, Ezreal, Jace, Katarina, Graves, and Yumi will all receive a skin from this skin line, so you want to save your RP for a few more days. If you're a fan of anime, then these skins are meant for you. Comment down below and tell us what skins is your favorite and why. I personally like Jace's. Can we just pause for a second and see how awesome this splash heart is? Now moving on to the top lane, but before we do, I want to mention that we'll be releasing a brand new top lane course on ProGuides.com that will drastically improve your rank this season if you're a top laner from Iron to Gold. If you guys want to improve your League of Legends skills, then click the link below and start winning more games. Anyone who's played solo queue in the past couple months knows just how broken Riven is. She's been sitting at the top of our tier list for far too long, and she's been long overdue for a nerf. Not only did she hold the highest win rate in top lane, but also has a massive play rate in all elos. Well, it looks like our prayers were finally heard, and the Balance team has decided to give Riven a few small nerfs. Her E, Valor, will now have its cooldown increased by 4 seconds at all ranks. This will severely reduce her playmaking potential. However, the slight nerf is followed by a compensation buff to her Q. Broken Wing's cooldown will now decrease as it's leveled. Overall, Riven will be a much weaker pick in the top lane, but she will still burst your entire HP bar before you can even get a chance to move. She'll likely remain as an S tier pick next patch, but we'll take a look and see when the patch goes live. Next up, we have a rework that's coming to one of the oldest champions in the league, Malphite. There are a few changes made to a couple of his abilities. Let's go over them quickly. Malphite's passive is Granite Shield, which will now glow when his shield is regenerating. In addition to that, his size will now increase as he builds more armor as well. How cool is that? His Q, Seismic Shard, will have a small buff to its range and missile speed, but will receive a compensation nerf to its cast time. Seismic Shard's secondary ability, which stole movement speed from your opponent, has now been removed, and you'll now gain and slow your opponents for a flat amount of MS. Thunderclap is his W, but most of you probably know this ability as Brutal Strikes. On cast, Malphite resets his auto attacks and deals physical damage based off of his armor. He will also create aftershocks for the next 6 seconds after casting this ability and will cleave all enemies in range of his cone. Tryndamere hasn't had a very good stance in the meta, but his AP build has definitely been annoying. Tryndamere's E, Spinning Slash, will have its AP ratio reduced by 20%, but will receive a compensation buff on its cooldown. This will likely gut the AP Tryndamere build that we all despise, thank God. The Conqueror rune has been problematic in almost every single one of its iterations. Any champ that relies on Conqueror right now is in a great spot in the meta, or even considered broken by some. Conqueror will have its true damage and healing lowered from 10% to 8% in patch 9.10. And finally, for the top lane, we have our favorite champion in the whole wide world, Teemo, the Swift Scout. This cute little Yordle is receiving a rework, but we're not sure if it'll hit the live servers in patch 9.10. There's still a lot of testing going on in the PBE right now, so we'll have to leave the details for Teemo out until he's in his final iteration. For more information on this rework, go check out Riot's official dev boards to stay updated with his new kit. Alright, on to the jungle. Jungle right now has been dominated by tanks and AD-oriented carries with a few exceptions such as Karthus and Evelynn. This is mainly due to Runic Echoes being unable to keep up with its counterpart jungle items. The Warrior and Blood Razor enchantment are the best out of the four, but Cinderhulk has moved to a close third with its recent buffs. In order to create a more diverse jungle, Runic Echoes will have its total cost reduced by 125 gold. "I was an alpha" is a phrase that is far too common amongst Master Yi mains. He's by far one of the buggiest champions in the game and is in dire need of a gameplay update. For patch 9.10, the devs are looking to smooth out his playstyle and give him a bit of love. His Q Alpha Strike will now have its cast time removed. You'll finally stop hearing "I was an alpha" every 4 seconds from your friend who mains the Wuju Bladesman. Next up is W Meditate will also have its cast time removed, and his E Wuju style will no longer grant AD while it's on cooldown. Lastly, his ultimate Highlander will have a slight buff on its attack speed, which will most likely result in Master Yi hitting our S tier for patch 9.10. Get those bands ready. Xin Zhao's been struggling quite a bit since the Scuttle Crab changes, and he'll receive a few simple buffs this patch. His Q, 3 Talon Strike, will have its AD increased by 10% and the cooldown decreased by 2 seconds at rank 1. Graves is a champion who's been over-nerfed recently and has become even weaker with the new Scuttle changes. To keep Graves in a competitive place in the meta, he'll receive a small buff to his Q, end of the line's damage. Shaco recently received a nerf to his boxes, but will receive a small compensation buff this patch, which will now move him towards your cursor when you cast your ultimate, Hallucinate. There are no changes planned for mid laners this patch, so we'll jump right into the AD carries. Vayne is one of the most broken champions in the game right now and has been sitting in our S+ tier for the past few patches. In order for Vayne to be put in check, she'll finally receive a nerf to her Tumble's cooldown during her ultimate final hour. Ginsu's Rageblade has also been problematic in the past few patches. It's been way too strong on champions like Vayne and Kai'Sa, while being suboptimal for others. Ginsu's Rageblade will now be changed to proc the Phantom hit effect every 3 attacks instead of 2. The item will also receive a complete overhaul on its armor and magic pen damage for this patch as well. Caitlyn's headshot damage from her Yordle Snare Trap will be increased by a significant amount at all ranks. Essence Reaver is an item that's very uncommon among ADCs but is still seen fairly often in the top lane. In order to bring some more diversity among AD item builds, Essence Reaver will have its AD increased by 5. Finally, on to supports! Blitzcrank recently received a small rework in patch 9.9, but the changes weren't enough to bring him to S tier status. For patch 9.10, he'll have his static field's detonation damage increased by 10 at all ranks. This is a massive buff and will likely result in Blitzcrank making the push to S tier. Soraka also received a mini rework in patch 9.9, but it seems that most people are finding success with her in the mid lane rather than the bot lane. For patch 9.10, she'll actually receive a buff to both roles and will have the movement speed bonus from her Q, Star Call, increased by a small amount at all ranks. And lastly, we have Brand. Brand is one of the strongest AP carry supports in lower elos, but is almost unpickable in higher ones. In order to give him more strength in the ranks of Diamond and above, he'll have his E's damage and scaling increased at all ranks. That's it for our upcoming changes video for patch 9.10. Let us know what change you're most excited about down below, and if you enjoyed watching this video, then please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to our channel to be notified for the next one. Also, make sure to check out ProGuides.com using the link below if you want to see huge improvements to your rank. As always, thank you so much for watching, good luck in your next games, and we'll see you on the Rift.